So 20 years, they followed 2,000 Finnish males around and watched them get heart disease and have heart attacks and die, basically. And they found that, in fact, those who were doing sauna at least a little bit, at least 1 or 2 days a week, were living a lot longer and having dramatically reduced incidence of heart attack and heart disease than folks doing no sauna. What they found more interesting than that was between the two groups using sauna, those using it for 5 days a week were proportionally living longer with proportionally decreased all-cause mortality versus those using it 1 day a week.
Hello, Awaken Beauties. Finally, it's here. The truth to empower women to true inner beauty through a healthy mind and inner biology. I am your hostess, Cassandra Keogh, a 20-year salon owner, organic beauty product formulator, positive mind management, and clinical hypnotherapist. And I am here to help you stay sane, get sleep, and bring your sexy back. Sponsored by evokebeauty.com. evokebeauty.com. Now, let's get to it. All right, ladies, if you're looking for healthy hair, beautiful skin, and a calm, quiet, clean, collected, powerful mind with superior CBD, go to evokebeauty.com. That's evokebeauty.com. And you'll receive 25% off your very first order with the code AWAKEN. Again, that's evokebeauty.com. Use the code AWAKEN for 25% off your first order. Welcome to the Awaken Beauty Podcast. I'm Cassandra, your organic beauty, positive mind management, and biofeedback practitioner. And ladies, you're in for a ride today. I would say this. So what if you could whip up a pleasurable and relaxing anti-aging and health solution, all while optimizing your inflammatory response, cellular regeneration, epigenetics, and DNA repair, and improvement of your gene expression. Now, it may seem overwhelming when I say that, but it's possible. And there's over 8,000 studies to validate just that. Now, I've been using saunas for over 10 years. So I've seen the progression of the market. And I know many of you have a lot of questions when it comes to this overwhelming space. So the right sauna, the right technology, and the excellence of how it's made makes all the difference as we seek to regenerate not only our health, but even our beauty. Yes, ladies, I'm talking about anti-aging. So light is the most essential nutrient. And on today's epic conversation on the Awaken Beauty podcast, we are bringing on Brian Richards, the founder of Sauna Space. And he'll blow your mind on how saunas represent so much more than just detoxing. Brian came upon this business after seeking solutions to his own health problems and found that near infrared light helped solve his insomnia almost immediately. Now, who doesn't want to raise their hand to that? This experience, coupled with the gap in the market that he noticed, prompted him to found the company that we're going to talk about today. And we are very happy to speak with him about his flagship products and what he is surely going to be sharing about, this very, very booming business today. So enjoy the awesome facts as we chat and we break down the health and the benefits of why sauna therapy and why Sauna Space is the absolute leader in the market today, at least in my opinion. So welcome, Brian, to the Awaken Beauty podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Wow, thank you for having me, Cassandra. That was quite the tee off. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Well, as I said, I've been in the organic beauty industry for 20 plus years. And, I've also been an esthetician. We have a spa. And so light therapy is nothing that's really new to me. We've used red lights in our treatment room. We've used blue lights in our treatment room. And I even, I'd like for you to tell us about your health experience. And I had my own health experience where I was directly affected by black mold. And sauna actually really helped nurse my health back. And that was quote unquote talking about detoxing. Now, I wish I would have known about Sauna Space and the key to this technology between far and infrared technology when it comes to saunas. And so I think first to kind of jump us off, can we just get a brief history about you and really what led your passion to developing what you are leading the market with on today?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And I'll try to give you the pithy version. I just wanted to look and feel better like everybody else. Okay.
Yeah.
No matter how vain or not we are, we both want both of those things. That's human nature. It makes us more happy, more successful in life. And so you want both. You don't want to just look good or feel good. And for me, feeling good is how I would describe having good health. I didn't find myself unattractive, but I definitely didn't feel good when all this stuff went down. So at the end of my university career, I had what I would describe as adrenal fatigue or adrenal burnout. I had a lot of symptoms that are associated with it without ever being diagnosed with that. And I self-diagnosed that. But I had weird acne around my torso, insomnia, mind racing, brain fog. And these are kind of ambiguous symptoms. So when you met me in the street, you probably be like, what's your problem, man? Like, get over it. There's nothing wrong with you that I see. But nonetheless, I didn't feel good. And at one point, I got recommended to take Accutane for the acne. And that was a big red flag for me. And those of you can read up on Accutane, and it's taken off the market. Its associations with liver cancer. So that was kind of my breaking moment where I said, well, I'm just going to take this into my own hands. I'm ego driven anyway. I'll just make my own damn decision based on my own research. So I got online, and my search for a cure instead of a symptom masking approach, which is what all pharmacological drugs do, led me to sauna. And I kept coming back to sauna. And initially, in the start of the story, before Sauna Space, I also just understood detox. I was like, wow, there's a toxicity issue. Maybe if I detox, the problems will go away. I won't have to take the chemicals, go back to where I was. At the end of my research, though, I stumbled upon, through Dr. Lawrence Wilson, who's a unlicensed practitioner who advocates for incandescent sauna today. He has a book that we sell. I learned that the sauna, there's a lot of different saunas out there. And there's a certain one that actually uses light therapy along with it. And it's the incandescent sauna. It's not a far infrared sauna with LEDs. It's in fact the original sauna. So 50 or 60 or 70 years before far infrared technology was invented, you have the incandescent, what Dr. John Harvey Kellogg called the, let me say this right, the electric incandescent light bath. And so the light bulbs were invented, the incandescent light bulbs were invented in 1897. Then 3 years later, Dr. Kellogg, and I'm referring to the Kellogg's Cornflake, Dr. Kellogg, he ran a sanitarium in Battle Creek, Michigan. He's very famous for some of his kooky ideas, but also some of his avant-garde ideas. And this was one of them. He said, he didn't know exactly what was going on with the light. We know it's the mitochondria nowadays, but he said, let's use these as a sauna. It's going to be a better sauna. And he ran 50,000 patients through his electric incandescent light bath in like 1902 and hundreds and thousands of sessions and established safe use 120 years ago almost. And then he wrote a book about it called Light Therapeutics in 1910. So here we have a Western American-based doctor advocating for, or basically substantiating the validity of light therapy and its use in sauna, but its use in general, 100 years ago. And that's the original electrically powered sauna. And we know nowadays that it's the best. And that's what I've come up with. But I've sort of, like you say, there was a gap in the market.
Yep.
And I'm in my 7th year now of obsessing over one thing, trying to get one thing right. And it's not perfect, but it's pretty damn good.
It's pretty damn good. And I just find that your inspiration, by both of these gentlemen, but Mr. Kellogg himself is pretty fascinating to me.
Isn't he?
The fact that, he turned down sperm and men, but, he certainly has the longevity.
And he succeeded, right?
And he's still succeeding because, Kellogg's not a small company. But, it's just, 100 years ago.
It just blows your mind how long ago it was. And then it goes back to even the uses of light therapy predating electricity.
Yes. Yep, exactly.
And there's an interesting anecdote with skin.
Yep.
And I thought that'd be real relevant for what we're talking, among other things, what we're talking about today. Mm-hmm. So lupus vulgaris used to kill people. Mm-hmm. Those of you can look up lupus. Some people suffer from lupus. So when lupus vulgaris gets really advanced, you get like this, I don't know what you would call it, like wounds almost. And
yeah, there can be all kinds of my mom has lupus actually, and I've never checked my genetic, the SNPs on it. But, there very much is a physical response to lupus on the skin. It can be white, it can be red, it can be all different kinds, but it's an autoimmune and it's not fun to experience. But going back to what you were saying,
so it's something that would kill people.
Yeah.
People think people live with autoimmune. In fact, they die. And today it's one of the top 5 killers of Americans. But lupus vulgaris, over 100 years ago, also killed people, where today it's now a very manageable disease.
Yep.
So what they would do is put people into a house and put red stained glass around the window. And then they would sit in front of the window. The red stained glass absorbs and filters out the blue and ultraviolet wavelengths, letting in the full spectrum red, and particularly near infrared from the sun. And they would 100% heal lupus vulgaris over 100 years ago. Those are some of the initial uses of light therapy. And then once electricity was invented, we had this artificial source where we could generate our own light therapy ourselves without the sun or the bonfire. That's kind of when it really took off.
Yep.
And there's all these books, and Kellogg and Arthur Dinshaw, and this crazy Indian doctor that got all this. And then boom, silence in the 30s. And it was just silenced and forgotten about until, we rediscovered all of it with the mitochondria and light, the light receptor proteins, and modern instrumentation and microscopic observation. We rediscovered this and we validated these theories from not just 100 years ago in terms of Western medicine, but also traditions going back thousands of years. We'll talk about how sauna is in every culture. Mm-hmm. So is light therapy in its own way. You actually have these cults called light eaters, where they will sit and photobiomodulate naked under the sunlight for 15 days and drink almost no water and eat no food. You mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, it's the ultimate nutrient. It really is.
Yeah, I did a podcast with Peter with the movie that he made, Let There Be Light. And we talked about breatharianism. And, essentially that's what that is that is the key signature that light is a nutrient, is the essential nutrient. We talk about chi and prana. Light is life. And so it's, going back, and you can speak about this, it's, maybe more important than caloric intake. It's as far as based on, food versus light therapy, and just how we can turn all of the mechanisms of, mitochondrial production, all of that. So
let's dig into that. What you just said, I think this is a study I saw originally on Facebook that Dr. Jack Cruz posted. Very interesting study on Aboriginal, Stone Age cultures in, I forget which country it was in Latin America, or maybe it was in Central America, but they basically took these Aborigines, and they said, okay, do everything else you do normally, but instead of eating your normal diet, you're going to get Coke and candy and M&Ms and Twinkies, all this junk food. So a completely, worse than the SAD diet. And they were measuring and testing their microbiome. And what they found was there was no significant change to their microbiome in their gut based on what they were eating. But what didn't change, their ancestral relationship with sunlight. So these are people that are living completely exposed in the upper torso, maybe a loincloth or something, but the majority of their tissues in their body are open directly to the sun. And they're waking up with sunrise, going to bed with sunset, no artificial light, no electricity, none of these modern bizarro artifices that we have nowadays that are bad for our health. They go to bed and no blue light after dark. And they found with that, not just getting enough near infrared, but maintaining that ancestral daily circadian rhythm, that cycle, as best as possible, was more of a controlling factor on their microbiome in their gut than anything they ate. Mm. And we know this too. If we look here, look at America. We're in the northern hemisphere. We don't get a lot of light.
Yep.
Not as much as the equator. When we do get light, we've got these shirts on.
Yep.
We're crazy and modest. And furthermore, we're exacerbated by being inside and under all this artificial blue light and all this. Let's not even talk about the EMF yet, but the electric, unnatural electric field. So all these things are not just us not adhering to our natural ancestral lifestyle, but in fact going in the opposite direction and making it less and less the way it was. And our biology is still tied to what it was 10,000 years ago. Our biology hasn't adapted. Our conscious minds and our egos have, and we think that none of this stuff affects me. People are like, the sun, it's bad for you.
Mm-hmm.
Sunscreen's good for you. The sun's bad.
Right.
But wait a second, doesn't the sun nourish all life on Earth?
Right.
Isn't it just literally, but also, I think spiritually, energetically, quantum mechanically, there would be nothing without the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So our relationship, due to, just trends and modernity in our modern egos, has detached us. We're divorced from that ancestral environment. And accordingly, or I think there's a correlation between that and our disease. The highest incidence of MS in the world is in the Northern Hemisphere,
mm-hmm.
where we live this type of lifestyle, indoors, no light, air conditioning, weird, less so in Europe, but weird diets here in the US.
All right, ladies, if you're looking for healthy hair, beautiful skin, and a calm, quiet, clean, collected, powerful mind with superior CBD, go to evoquebeauty.com. That's EVOQbeauty.com. And you'll receive 25% off your very first order with the code AWAKEN. Again, that's EVOQbeauty.com. Use the code AWAKEN for 25% off your first order.
So when we're taping this tonight, this is really a timeless podcast to me because light therapy is so important, but we are recording in this whole coronavirus thing. And one of the biggest delights that I have had is going back out and getting out in the morning. And I also go for a walk in the evening. And, we are organisms in the earth. And so we forget that we live in the earth as organisms within the earth. And we've totally been shut out. And so, I think what would be helpful is if we can really, everybody knows about saunas. If you go to Lifetime Fitness here in Minnesota, it's like the biggest gym franchise, and everybody goes, and women will say, "Well, I love to go into the sauna." And I think back to my days when I was, a gym junkie, and I would go and sit in this. Now it makes me want to actually puke because I think about all the germs and that just everything in that sauna. But, what the differentiation is between wavelengths, and I talk a lot about just biofeedback and quantum science and all of that. And so I really am into the waveforms of life and how that affects everything. And when we talk about far and infrared, I think that maybe we can jump off there is what is the difference? And then how does the infrared affect the body, turn on the like mechanics and the dimmers in the body and the circadian rhythms and all of that. So let's first differentiate far infrared and near infrared.
Yeah, let's start out with that. So we can generally differentiate those two. And then as it applies to sauna technology, I'm going to go into that and explain the different sauna types out there. Near and far infrared, first of all, is an arbitrary delineation. It's humans said, look, we're going to take infrared. That's the part of the electromagnetic spectrum, which I should probably back up and say, look, what is the electromagnetic spectrum? It's the spectrum of wavelengths of light or radiation, if you can't see it, that exist in nature. And they start from 0 nanometers and they go to infinity. And the sun emits a full spectrum. And it peaks in the visible. About 43% of the sun is near infrared. The sun spectrum is all the wavelengths with this big bell curve, majority of the light being in visible and then near infrared, and then a tail into mid infrared and really tapering off when you get into far infrared. But there's still some far infrared there for sure. The biggest difference between near and far infrared in terms of what reaches the earth is 43% of the solar radiation is near infrared. About 2 to 3% is far infrared. So we don't have much exposure to it on the earth, not in the atmosphere, but on the earth. And that has to do with water absorption and other things. But we don't have a long evolutionary relationship of getting this almost half of the sun's dose is in this near infrared portion.
Yep.
So far infrared, maybe that's an evolutionary biologist argument or anthropological argument. I can't speak to that necessarily, but I would say myself, just understanding things. Hey, so what the what the cells got the biggest dose of for billions of years is eventually what they evolved to take advantage of and to leverage. And so if you look at the mitochondria, which we'll talk about in a second, the only wavelengths that activate all these incredible responses we want are in the red and near infrared, period. Yep. And it's actually tighter than that. It's red and about half a near infrared, 700 to 1,000 nanometers. That's the photobiomodulation band for mitochondria anyway, which is really the essence of all light therapy in the body. There are other light receptors like blue light, but we don't want any more blue light.
Right.
We want less blue light.
Right.
So difference between near and far infrared ultimately is we don't have a historical relationship with far where we do with near. And that's also the optical window of the atmosphere. All the near infrared comes through. And the small amount of far infrared that is emitted by the sun is absorbed by the water in the atmosphere. Mm-hmm. So we don't get much of it. And whatever we do get just heats us. It does not trigger any photobiology, period. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing bad with that. It's just not a essential core piece necessarily. It is in a way because it's part of the full spectrum, but not nearly so magical or relevant or irrelevant in terms of biological impact as near infrared.
Yeah, so I want to stop right there. This is where then I draw a line in the sand and I say, okay, this is where we cross over. So this is where we cross over from gym saunas. This is where we cross over from, for instance, I've had a sunlightened sauna for a long time. It's heat therapy. And heat therapy is good and well in itself. Detox, I mentioned that it helped me with my detoxification with mold.
It's amazing.
But this is now where we upgrade. Okay, so this is the upgrade and where we change over and we talk about the added light therapy and why this is so critical and the mechanics of the body and why, and I've heard you say this, it is the only it is a therapy that helps reduce the risk of mortality of anything on this planet. Would you say that to be true?
Absolutely. But I don't want to be an exclusivist.
No, I don't want to.
Or an exclusionist.
Say it in an exclusive or an inclusion.
Let me preface, absolutely. Let's dive into it.
Yeah.
First of all, whatever heat therapy you can access, all the better.
Yep.
If you used to go to your gym and it's closed due to the quarantine stuff, you can fill up your bath with the hottest water possible and lay in there until it goes to room temp.
Yep.
So heat shock protein response is not just detox. It has a huge a huge immune activation component. And in fact, that's directly what it's doing in your body. So those of you out there, any sauna is a good sauna. Any heat therapy where it's full body, where you're getting a sustained, increase in temp in the core, you're getting amazing benefit. And so to respond to your reference, that is a 2015 study in a regular Finnish sauna. They followed 2,000 Finnish males for 20 years. That's why it's considered to be, one of the most cited references now. So 20 years, they followed 2,000 Finnish males around and watched them get heart disease and have heart attacks and die, basically. And they found that, in fact, those who were doing sauna at least a little bit, at least 1 or 2 days a week, were living a lot longer and having dramatically reduced incidence of heart attack and heart disease than folks doing no sauna. What they found more interesting than that was between the two groups using sauna, those using it for 5 days a week were proportionally living longer with proportionally decreased all-cause mortality versus those using it 1 day a week. Clearly, and they couldn't determine exactly why, from a cellular perspective, but clearly the more, using sauna reduces all-cause mortality, and the more you do it per week, the better. And for those of you who don't understand what is reducing all-cause mortality, what it means is it reduces your chance of dying of all things.
Right.
And what other product or what other experience or therapy or modality could you possibly do that is so aspecific? Whether you're dealing with skin or autoimmune stuff or, chronic pain or TBI, all the way to just 1,000 different things. People with PCOS, people with insulin resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's this whole gamut of things enough that it sounds like a panacea. It sounds like a bunch of,
right.
a bunch of snake oil.
Yep.
But you mentioned the research before. There's several thousand sauna studies alone.
Yep.
There are about 5,000 light therapy studies as well. So yeah, that's where you get to almost 10,000 studies. And particularly in terms of the sauna, there are so many human studies. So we're not just talking about cell cultures or mouse studies. We're
right.
For sauna, we're talking about showing in human studies, well published, or published peer-reviewed studies
right.
with humans, reductions in Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and risk of stroke, risk of heart attack, the things I've just mentioned. It's all these things that are seemingly impossible. And it turns out it is possible with sauna. And then you look at the light therapy. You look at 5,000 studies. You see things on the skin, autoimmune stuff and depression stuff and hair regrowth and treating the thyroid issues and on and on and on. You're like, oh my God, there is something. This is something for everybody here.
Yeah, it really touches every industry. I mean, my clients with psoriasis and eczema use it. I've used light therapy domes for clients that have lost their hair. I've used it to bring back my hair. So the message there in that all-cause mortality is that there's a reason why. And so when I say the line in the sand is all things are good, well, and done with heat therapy, but the heat therapy with the light therapy is a differentiation. So that's the upgrade. And so, talk a little bit about how it turns over the protein fold and the mitochondria, turns on all of these different natural regenerative cellular repair, all of these different pieces, which connects the dot of why it's an all-cause mortality booster.
It's and there's a lot of overlap between light and heat therapy, but I'll try to first talk about heat and then talk about light. And the all-cause mortality reduction is associated with with sauna therapy,
right?
Not with light therapy yet.
Right.
Although we know folks who live ancestral lifestyles, like Dr. Chris Kresser mentioned this in a speech I was listening to. I actually was grateful to listen to him live at a conference.
Yeah, I love Chris.
And he has a nice presentation. Yeah, he's a great guy. He has a nice presentation on how if you live in a Stone Age culture, and there's a few left in the world, most people don't live till they're 70 because they die of exposure or of trauma. Those who do live to 70 have zero heart disease, zero hypertension, zero insulin resistance, zero incidence of cancer. They're like zeros all across the board. And they have completely an ancestral relationship with the sun and with light therapy. And they're getting that every day. And I think there's absolutely an all-cause mortality component to it. We're waiting for that long-term. Those are long-term studies to be able to show that kind of thing. Sure. But the sauna is essentially doing two things. It's doing one, activating cell detox, and then two, this other thing. So how does it activate cell detox? You heat up the cell for a period of time and it begins to produce from the nucleus these special proteins called heat shock proteins.
Yep.
The heat shock proteins directly facilitate cell detox, so they make cell detox better. And if you can imagine that happening in 3 trillion cells of the body, of course, that sauna is an amazing way to detox. But what else are they doing? The HSPs are not just detox facilitators. They're actually their own repairmen.
Mm-hmm.
So they do this thing called protein refolding. You have 20 or 30% of the proteins in your body are misfolded. And if those of you have seen a protein before, like on a computer, looks like Kleenex with a bunch of ribbons sticking out of it.
Exactly.
It's super complicated. Imagine one of those ribbons just being folded one way, and then this complicated ribbon tissue thing is supposed to fit like a lock and a key into some other protein that's supposed to receive it. So one or two misfoldings can cause cellular malfunction, can cause a disrupted pathway. And more than a few foldings or enough of misfolding occurring causes the protein to not work at all.
Right.
And so the proteins are the line workers of the body. They're everywhere in the body doing their work. And you can imagine if they're all like half paralyzed.
Right.
The totality of that is tisular dysfunction and eventually disease. So very interesting that we have this little cellular repairman that goes out and fixes those. So they don't have to they don't have to be destroyed, but they're also working better again. So it's reoptimizing protein function. And I'll give you a really nice example that I've just learned probably in the last year. The heat shock protein is now understood to go outside of the cell and fix the insulin receptor protein and make it work again, which means it talks to insulin better, which does what? Improves insulin signaling, which does what? Reduces insulin resistance.
Right.
So we see a very interesting study where sauna is reducing insulin resistance. And talking about people wanting to live and feel better, if you tell someone who's super obese and has a bad diet or whatever, okay, we're going to cut that out. We'll put you on paleo diet, cut out the bread, the sugar, put you on the treadmill. You're going to have your personal coach. And they do the dietary changes and they run their tail off on the treadmill and they don't lose weight very well or very effectively or in a lasting fashion. And what's going on is they have so much insulin resistance that their body's like, hormonally disrupted. The hormonal system is de-optimized. And so here you have a pretty strong support in this study of sauna at the cellular level, detoxing and doing the protein refolding, correcting the hormonal system of the body, which is the communication system of the body, which is the essence of everything. And Dr. Mercola says that, probably all of us are insulin resistant to a certain degree.
Yeah, it's interesting. I talked to Dr. Carey last week from the Dutch test and we did an interview and we really talked about too, hormonally for women, when they get that 40, 45 plus and they start going through menopause and they can't lose weight, oftentimes it's insulin resistance. The backfire of what insulin resistance does, yes, hormonally, but so much more. I mean, just that key piece right there to help with the insulin resistance, especially in American culture and everything that impedes that is so huge, so huge.
Yeah, I think it could definitely be one of the bigger contributing factors to all disease.
Yep.
And we're all dealing with it. Any of us that have any kind of American diet, sad American diet, it is sad, but it's a standard diet here. So yeah, it's a thing where the sauna is not just detoxing you. It's reoptimizing you. It's revitalizing, reprogramming. And it's not just the cells and the proteins and stuff too. It also causes vascular shear stress. And the heat shock basically causes new blood vessels to form. And for blood vessels to be broadened and kind of remapping the blood vessels of the body. So you can imagine scar tissue and things like that, where it's just, there's not this perfect network anymore of capillaries. We're going to rebuild that. And so what happens when you rebuild that? One of the effects of rebuilding that is, I'm going to get a little technical now, but I'm going to bring it back in. So the vascular shear stress, which is one of the two ways that sauna increases BH4 tetrahydrobiopterin, BH4. It increases BH4 and reduces peroxynitrite concentration in the body. Peroxynitrite is associated with a lot of chronic disease and chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia and all these other things. Like, it's a big deal. And they have synthetic synthetic BH4 you can take and all these other harebrained notions of how to fix this thing when you can just get in the sauna and do that.
Right.
So what's so fascinating about that is what else increases peroxynitrite concentration and leads to this kind of damaging oxidative stress cycle in the cells in the body, EMF stress. So the same mechanism by which, like blue light in a way, this non-ionizing radiation is nonetheless leading to DNA mutation. It's because it's not ultraviolet light where it's ionizing, where it's directly hitting the DNA and breaking it. Instead, it's this sinister kind of subtle pathway where it activates these damaging oxidative stress or these damaging DNA damaging molecules, and then they go to work. And so very interesting that sauna in two different ways, actually, two different biological pathways, combats the same oxidative stress that's produced by EMF. Here I just gave you another reason why sauna is amazing. It is not just helping you deal with detoxing and protein refolding and correcting, reoptimizing protein functioning in the body. It's also continually reversing the damage due to electric field stress, which in our modern world is really 24 hours a day.
For you, listeners of Awaken Beauty podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. Simply go to www.audibletrial.com/awakenbeautypodcast. That's www.audibletrial.com, Awaken Beauty Podcast.
Yeah. And, I think Mercola has said that he's pretty much, respectively giving his second part of his research and his study to EMF exposure and just the electrosmog, just the toxicity of it is so huge. And I love where you went with that because, we're also talking about blue light, right? So we're around blue light with our phones and our computers and, in offices, the towers, we can't escape the towers. I have units all over both my salon and my home and on my phones, and I have quantum things that I wear to help me, but we're still being drained all the time. And so if we can dedicate a part of our life and a part of our day to make sure that we're able to go back and recoup from that damage that we know we can't escape, we know that the research is there and that you're both able to, and that's why I love where you went, is that you're not only detoxing, but then you're also replacing the repair. Detox is a stressor on the body. And oftentimes we do not detox accurately because we're led by all of these different bright and shiny objects. And this is to me, it's a very safe way to detox because you're getting the attributes of both. And so, I love where you went with that. And, I know you've mentioned the BDNF factor, it's just cognitive health and all of that as well.
It's just, people need to think of EMF like anything else. It's a poison.
Right.
In our atmosphere. It's a poison in our environment, like the chemicals. And like you say, no matter how careful you are, yep, you are necessarily exposed to it, even if you're careful. And if you're not careful, just a little bit, you get tremendous amount of exposure. Right. And this stuff, we're not disconnected from it. It does affect us. And it's all cumulative stress. So it doesn't kill you in a day. Yep. When you eventually die, you can't point back to it and say, oh, well, my God, it was the EMF.
Right.
And it might have been, and it might have not, but it clearly is damaging. And so especially when people say everything in moderation, right? No big deal.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain man-made chemicals that are not good at all,
mm-hmm,
not in any moderation, not in any amount. It's the same thing with electric fields and man-made electric fields. So we don't have a biological adaptation to it. And we kind of did okay with low frequency electricity. That's 60 hertz. Right. We handled radio. They're not so bad. 2G technology, okay. 3G technology, it's like, whoa, hang on, guys. The wattages are getting, and the frequencies are going up. 4G technology, it's getting worse and worse. And you see more and more people being symptomatic, living close to cell phone towers. And as a cumulative, those who are most exposed are seeing some symptoms. And now with 5G, we have some serious issues, particularly in the 60 gigahertz band. Not a lot of people know about it. Not a lot of people are talking about it. It's probably beyond the scope of this recording, but suffice it to say that there's some interesting biological impacts at these higher frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely affecting us and you can't escape it. So what to do? And the answer is to assume that you're getting exposed and have a daily maintenance practice.
Exactly.
To deal with that and the chemicals. And wait a second, it does all these other things too. What I would call a spiritual stress of sorts. Yep. It's not just get in the sauna and get her done.
Yep.
Which I think is the experience with a lot of regular saunas. Get in there, sweat it, deal with it, push through, get to the other side. The Sauna Space sauna is totally different. We're using incandescent light. It's the light of nature. You go inside there. It's more like going back into the womb of nature. You're getting into your little escape, your little safe space. And especially our Cadillac product, let's call it, our Faraday product, gives you total protection on all 6 sides from wireless radiation. And so all we're doing is tricking the body into thinking it's back out there in nature, but not today's nature, the nature of 1886, before electricity, before any man-made wireless communication, because that was the real nature that we evolved to. And it turns out if you trick your body by going into my product, you can measure it, You can measure body voltage. You can confirm that the RF is extremely low inside, almost zero, that the electric field from electricity is nil, and that your body's body voltage has gone way down back to a natural level. You can confirm this, but forget all of those meters and all that kind of left brain stuff.
Right.
Just go in there and feel it.
You have to feel it. Even with my desk unit, like it is. Yes.
So this little guy here. So you just
it's so
immediately
wonderful.
the light is like, I like this light. My body likes this light.
Yeah.
Enough. Yeah. And so we use that, and that's kind of the visual, but also the psychological experience in our sauna using incandescent light. It's primarily near infrared. It's not just about heating you up faster and being a more efficient, sauna. It's about making this experience as impactful as possible, positively, on the body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. I mean, I absolutely feel relaxed. And so your Cadillac is something I'm investing in. And, when you really think about the unseen stressors and all of these wavelengths of stressors that are coming into the body at all times. And when you step, I can imagine the experience stepping into the Cadillac with the Faraday and how all of those stressors and messaging coming into the body are dimmed down and turned off. And you really can take that time to turn inward. And it is a different experience where it's an inside out kind of feeling. It's a very relaxing feeling versus, you're right, like, I don't really like heat. I don't like to be really hot, but it's a different experience. It's a very relaxed, calmative type of experience. So we've mentioned the Cadillacs. We've got the Faraday, which is going to be a tent, and it comes with a stool, and it comes with the light structure, and then you kind of twist and move the body around so you can hit the body in all areas. Correct. And then, so again, just to re-highlight that, it is going to protect you from EMF. Almost down to zero is pretty extraordinary. And, I think about the lifetime value of this product is just an absolute no-brainer to me. The next step from your options with your products is you have another light that you can hang, or you can kind of create your own sauna, so to speak. Can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah. I basically wanted to equip everybody as much as possible and as much varying environments as possible with this technology to be able to use it. So our basic sauna is our Illuminati sauna, and it's got a grounding mat in it that's part of the EMF protection. If you want the full wireless protection, that's our Faraday unit, which can be upgraded to with it's basically a liner system option. So it's an upgrade thing. But you can also buy just the heart of the sauna, the tungsten. It's a 4-light array that each bulb is 250 watts. So you can use that, and it stands up, and you can see that on sauna.space on the website. It just stands up on its own because I'm trying to accommodate those people. They already have this enclosure, whether it was a big expense or not, and maybe they like the look of it or whatever. And for a fraction of the price of the whole sauna, you can get that.
Right.
And you can upgrade it. You don't have some of the bells and whistles in terms of our design and the EMF protection, but again, it's a lot better than just pouring hot water in your bathtub. Or if you have a far infrared sauna, maybe taking 40 minutes to sweat versus if you upgrade to a Sauna Space technology, it'll take half that time to be done.
Yeah.
So, but let's talk about what you have. So that's on the website. But what you have, I think, is the coolest thing. No, not literally, of course. That's the photon.
Right.
The photons, for those of you who are not ready for the sauna or just getting introduced to this concept, or for 1,000 other reasons, this little bad boy might serve you just as much as your sauna. For me, it does. Of course, I have the sauna at home. I use it every day. So before I talk about how it's used, I want to talk about for a second for how it's made. And this little demo I'm going to show you applies to the sauna as well.
Awesome.
The tungsten panel that has 4 lights has the same EMF shielding, product technology, product design stuff in it. So here I have just a really, really sensitive electric field meter. So I'm only measuring wired electricity, 60 hertz, 50 hertz. So I'm not measuring anything in the air. I'm just measuring the shielding effectiveness of the product itself, not of the environment. Just a very sensitive meter, and it's grounded. So we're measuring volts per meter, which is an electrical potential. This is an electrical potential energy concept But if that's too confusing, just think of it as leaky electricity.
Right.
So the stuff damages our body slowly. Ideally, all of the electronics on Earth would be all shielded. Almost none of them are, but ours is. So if you see if I can do this in the camera, definitely voltage there. If you get on it, but there's none in front of it. But if I go inside, I touch the socket, you got some there. And so you want that to not just be low, like, back in the day, they thought, if you get this low, no big deal. Now, a modern building biologist understanding is we want this to be zero, which is much, much more challenging target than most of the building biologists are going for when they design, big apartment buildings and stuff. Anyway, there's electricity in here, which means there's electric fields leaking out, just like anywhere else. But we're using grounding technology, Faraday cage technology, shielded wiring on the inside, and a shielded power cord in order to completely reduce the electric field exposure to zero. And I've shown in other videos, I could show you real quick, if you measure magnetic field, which is a different type of a different type of EMF, you'll find it only comes out to about here. So it does not extend anywhere past my hand. So it's not in the area where the user sits. So whether it's this or the sauna, there is zero electric field and zero magnetic field influence on the user. That I would think would be a baseline kind of goal for all sauna companies. Of course, I wasn't doing it in 2013. I had no idea what this meant.
Right.
But now I consider it to be an absolute must because this is your therapy space. It's your healing space. You have to absolutely shield it. So our product is completely shielded, completely. And so what we've done is said, okay, well, that protects you. So our product's not damaging you. But how do you protect the environment from not damaging you? And that's the whole Faraday setup. But what's interesting about this is beyond the shielding, so there's no toxic byproduct coming from the electricity using to power the product. This red light has an interesting effect on things. So I'm going to try to do another demo real quick, and that has to do with flicker. So flickering light, like where you are, Cassandra, where I am in the office.
Yep.
So much flickering light all around us. So all LEDs, almost all LEDs and all fluorescents flicker, which means it's light that's pulsing many times a second that's not consciously perceivable, but your blue light receptors in your eyes and in your skin and in your gut and in your pineal gland, they see all this and they're like, this is so stressful. I'm getting stimulated constantly. Again, we don't have any biological adaptation to blue only light all day long without near infrared, because we only got it from the sun and it came together. The sun kills you with blue and ultraviolet, but it regenerates you with red near infrared.
Yep.
So on top of it being all blue light, it also has this flickering effect, which is associated with migraines and anxiety and stress in the workplace, not to mention some more serious stuff. You can imagine if someone had epilepsy, you wouldn't put a strobe light in front of them. But these are essentially strobing you all day long. And I can measure that. So I have this other meter. So it hums when you can find something that flickers.
I love that.
A little.
Yeah, I don't think people are familiar with the flicker light terminology, but that is essentially what we're exposed to all day long. And it is
it's not just that it's a wavelength that's an issue. It's the form of the light. You talked about the waveform. Sunlight and the fireplace are DC.
Yep.
Direct current. There's no on off. You're not getting stimulated on and off 100 times a second or whatever, many times a second. It's constant. It's analog.
Yeah.
And that's a great way to think about it.
Why it's sedating,
It has that. So everything in nature that's natural is analog.
Yep.
And everything that's man-made is digital and stepwise. And you see that spectrally too. You look at LED and fluorescent spectra, they're these big spiky, funny looking lights, electromagnetic spectrum, emission spectrum, I should say, where sunlight is this beautiful analog curve, which some people will call messy. And I would call it, no, that's nature. That's biology. There is no cut dried, near, mid, far infrared. Everything is continuous. See if I can do this with only 2 hands and not 3. I've got my flicker meter. Let's show it to you. Can you hear that?
Yep. Turns it off right when you get by the red light. So what he's doing is he's taking it away And then he's putting it near the photon, the red light.
Yeah, and basically,
Yep.
I think it's a little louder. So what's happening there? And so I do have some LEDs from some of my computer electronics. I got some LEDs, but let's turn it up and let's listen to the photon.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a hiss.
Yeah, well, I can't hear anything. So that's
and we got it
awesome.
Turned up. So that's kind of around the room.
Right.
And you just hear a hiss. That's what the sun sounds like.
Yep.
So this doesn't flicker. And more than that, what is it doing? It's basically, my suspicion anyway, is that it's correcting the light environment inside. It's making my indoor light environment more naturalistic and less artificial.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you didn't use this for any localized symptom relief or anything else, if you just had it in your office next to your desk and just had it in your environment close by, it doesn't need to point at you like this. It can just be next to you, kind of pointed up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's correcting your indoor lighting environment. It makes computer work less stressful. For me, it's the only thing that gets me through a long slog at the computer. I can't work without it. And so it's interesting that it's not just about sauna anymore. It's about tricking your body into thinking it's in its natural environment. And if we can't go out there because we got to work in here, maybe we can bring some of that into here.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is, I don't want to be so bold to claim that this is the sun at your desk, but this is damn close.
Truly,
and it feels good.
Yeah.
And there's other things too. If you look at the light therapy studies, which we haven't talked about a whole lot, red and infrared is referred to as the antidote to blue.
Mm-hmm.
So the blue kills us, and the ultraviolet, the red and infrared, it regenerates us. And so while we're in this blue toxic, flickering environment inside, let's bring some of that antidote in.
All right, ladies, if you're looking for natural, organic, solution-based beauty and superior CBD, go to evoquebeauty.com. That's evoquebeauty.com and receive 25% off your very first order with the code AWAKEN. Again, that's evoquebeauty.com. Type in the code AWAKEN for 25% off your first order.
Yeah, and I think, when we talk about beauty as well, it's regeneration, using that specific light that he has right there. I mean, morning and night, I love it. I prefer not to use lighting in my home as much as possible because of the light toxicity. And I think, when we think about aesthetics, it's obviously a $12 billion industry. And something as continuous as analog light coming from red light versus going and spending all this money on resurfacing and lasers, which as you age, you're tearing down your skin. Your skin gets thinner and you're not able to reboost your natural moisturizing factor on the skin, which helps the thickness of the skin, et cetera, in which actually sun does as well. It actually improves the tensile strength of the skin if you do it over a long period of time and safely at the right time. So that's not talking about going in at 1:00 in the afternoon and basking in the sun. That's the right type of sun. And that's what we're talking about. There's a red kind of the shade in the morning and at night. That's that red therapy. And so even going to chronological aging, using something like just that device alone is going to help regenerate collagen formation, elastin formation, and all of those pieces as well. So it is certainly an attribute for anti-aging in itself as well. And so, all of your modalities are just so, so great. And I know that the bulbs in themselves, you now have an actual red, is it blown? Are you doing blown glass now versus?
Yeah, it's pretty, and we can't seem to keep it in stock. It's really hard to make, but essentially, even the light bulb inside here is not a standard bulb. I don't know if you can see.
Yep.
Probably not, but it's stamped with the logo on the bottom.
Yep.
Right there. So you can see that wasn't just, aesthetics to put it there. Most of the logos they put on the front and I want it on the side, but none of that's the point. It's actually a mouth blown, hand rolled glass.
Yeah.
It's artisan made glass. They're extremely expensive to make.
Yep.
And, but I wanted a blood red, really dark kind of blood red color when it gets lit. That's that kind of dark, warm, inviting cave kind of vibe. So extremely dark. So I tested the coloration of the dye in the stained glass, and that's the other thing that's different. It's stained glass.
Yep.
So almost all bulbs out there are just regular glass, clear glass that's spray dyed on the inside with a cheap dye, made to look red, whether it's the red fronts or the whole body. And none of them are stained glass. Not anymore anyway. This is something they used to do a long time ago. I brought that back.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, the excellence of your product. And you've upgraded that.
Developed this damn bulb, but it's really amazing. It's some people would say almost those are kind of bougie traits. Well, why would I want an expensive light bulb with stained glass and it's hand blown? Who cares about all that? Well, the most important aspect of the development of the thermalite bulb is actually the filament.
Yep.
So yeah, it looks better. Yeah, the color is perfect. Yes, it's hand blown and gorgeous, but on top of that, it has a redesigned filament. So the filament basically runs a little bit hotter. And what that does is that shifts the spectrum so that the thermalites produce almost twice, and in some cases over 2 times the near-infrared wattage of a regular heat lamp.
Unbelievable.
And so that changes 2 things. 1, more light therapy in less time. And 2, it makes you sweat faster.
Yep.
And it has to do with and this is a lot of confusion in the sauna industry. It's like Infra-Red does stimulate the mitochondria, and that's how it does its job, all these mitochondrial activation things. But the latter half, from about 1,000 to 1,500 nanometers, doesn't stimulate the mitochondria. The light receptor protein doesn't have absorption bands for that.
Right.
But it is absorbed by water. So it heats your body up radiantly. And that's why in any incandescent sauna, it heats you up a lot faster than a regular sauna. But in comparison to a sauna space with standard heat lamps and a sauna space with the thermalights, the difference is dramatic. I used to do a 35-minute sauna session. I now do 20 minutes, maybe 25, but I also don't preheat.
Right.
Though some people like it nice and warm and cozy, and it definitely makes you provoke a sweat, response faster that way. But I don't do anything anymore. It couldn't be any more efficient. I roll out of bed, get in there, flick the lights on, close the curtain. 20 minutes later, I'm done going to work.
Yep, absolutely.
Or going into my morning ritual and then going to work. So it's that time saver thing was the most amazing part. So the filament has resulted in a superior therapy. And that's another part that makes us different. So that, again, it's not everything. That's a piece of it. The totality of all these different kind of harebrained ideas I had was to create this ultimate rejuvenation machine that also made or wasn't just about the function. For me, the form and the function need to come together. We're humans. We love things to be beautiful, aesthetically. And for us, usually beautiful is what's natural. Although people, again, as we become detached from nature, people confuse themselves in regards to what is actually beautiful. But ancestral humans love the landscape,
right?
Of the plains, the mountains, the stream running through it. We have an instinctive attraction to that view, right? We also have an instinctive attraction to sauna because it's like a cave and it's like an ancestral home. That's what we used to live in before houses, was these dark areas, and we had a little bonfire in there, and it was hot. Nowadays, it's much more. It's not so smoky anymore, but we have this just real deep set primordial desire for this environment, and that's what I've tried to provide. And I think with the EMF protection now too, it's unfortunate that you have to do that. Where traditional saunas before electricity, you didn't need that. So there's nothing wrong with a finished sauna at all. It's just nowadays, it's not protecting you from EMF at all. And most of them are not wood fired. And then we don't have that ancestral relationship with sunlight. So if we don't, and we're completely living this artificial lifestyle, in terms of our 9 to 5 and our computers and inside, at the least we can get this big dose of near-infrared while we're already in the sauna trying to do all these other things.
Yeah. Ryan, I love it. You've done a great job today of really, talking about all the different facets and really the excellence of your product. And I truly appreciate it. both for health reasons and obviously aesthetic reasons are absolute bonus to it. But science is science, and prehistoric ways and functions that we're bringing back into our life as a human, we're craving it, and so I really applaud companies that are bringing this back into our life. There's ways that I do that with quantum science in my industry. And, we kind of noted on inner and outer beauty. And, this is really the way and path of inner health, to outer beauty, whether that's what your skin looks like or what have you. But when you're in the sauna or when you're in front of the red light, your body is reminded. Your body does not forget what it was prehistorically came from. And so it does remind the body of this is home. And so as much as we can bring these different modalities into our life, it's really a gift. And I think it's a great investment. So thank you so much for being on the podcast today. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us today?
I think my heart goes out to everybody who's, struggling and dealing with things in these crazy times, whether we decide ourselves or it's being decided for us how we live our lives right now. There's a way through it. And for me, the best thing is to protect yourself. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that selfishly. I mean, protect your body's own, your body and its own immune system. There is no more powerful way to activate the body's immune system than sauna, period. It is directly, the heat shock protein response is a direct immune system activation. Whether you are trying to strengthen the immune system and avoid infection, or whether you're infected. What do you think the fever is in the body? When you have the flu, your body says, hey, let's get rid of it. It heats itself up with its own energy, really hot, and you begin to sweat. And those of you who had a really bad flu back in the day and you had like the night sweat where you wake up in the morning and the bed is just soaked, what happened? Mm-hmm. Just a natural way, the body dealing with things. So we're just activating that intelligent system inside. And I think it's just as impactful, if not more so, than all of the protective equipment we're trying to invest in, which is important. Yep. So it's important to understand the basics. The body protects itself way better than, all these, in my opinion, all these drugs and all these things. And you're always going to meet people. If it's the flu now, it's going to be the flu next year and they'll call it something else. And
exactly.
I hope this doesn't become some cyclical, catastrophic thing. But I think that, what a simple practice. Mm-hmm. Sit on your lazy butt in a hot chamber with these lights that have the same spectrum as the fireplace. Yep. And it's doing all of these things, supposedly. And you can even read a book while you're doing it. So if you talk about the best way to multitask for your health, it's really to sit there and do nothing.
Yep. Absolutely. And Dr. Felice Gersh and I briefly discussed too, is just light therapy and getting back to the circadian rhythms. And what she's found in her research is that as women go back to resetting their circadian rhythms, and, red light therapy can help you do that. It can help your body wind down at night. Mm-hmm. She's found that she has been able to resolve infertility, menopause, a lot of hormonal issues and autoimmune issues. So this goes back to letting the body do what it does best. And, Sauna Space is certainly a part of that. And I appreciate your time today. So where can we find you?
Everything's on sauna.space now. So that's sauna.space. Although if you go to the old saunaspace.com, you still get there.
All right.
Anyway, awesome. A lot of information on there. You can check out the product. You can read a lot of customer reviews, which is, for me, I think one of the most valuable things is, hey, what happened to this person? What happened to that? There's a lot of in-depth there where you can actually search the reviews and find relevant topics or relevant disease types, whatever. And ultimately, it proof's in the pudding. People, I respect people who are skeptical of me. That's why we have a long 100-day trial. I would argue that if you try this and use it with discipline according to the instructions, there's just no going back.
Yep.
This, and if you don't use it, that's okay. You can return it, but feel the Infra-Red difference. Feel how quickly it heats your body up and how it's enjoyable. Especially those of you who know sauna and you used to go to your gym, you love your gym sauna or whatever. This is just next level. It's like that, but a lot better, a lot faster, a lot more efficient, a lot more fun, I would say, and also that word that gets thrown around a lot, meditation. Mm-hmm. we were having a joke about this earlier today here at the shop. It's such a powerful practice. It's so essential. It's so ignored in the West. And yet, how do you do it if your temple's a ruin? Mm-hmm. So you have to have a clean environment and you have to have a clean body to do real meditation. If you don't have either of those things, you don't even have that basic baseline foundation to build upon. So before you get in all hoity-toity about this meditation and that meditation, how about you clean yourself up a little bit? How about you clean up the space in which you do want to concentrate or relax or meditate? And then that's what we try to facilitate, is kind of have this ready pop-up, ready-made space that is the cleanest environment you can find in your high EMF, toxic, blue light ridden New York apartment.
That's great. Well, Brian, thank you so much for being on the Awaken Beauty podcast. Appreciate all your wealth of knowledge today, everything that you had to share. Certainly a time where we can all sit on our bums and receive the gift of the sauna. So thank you so much. And all of you that listen to the Awaken Beauty podcast, make sure you like and subscribe. Leave your aha moment from today's podcast. And make sure you, till next time, stay sane, get sleep, and bring your sexy back. And now you can with Sauna Space. All right, Brian, thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, ladies, if you're looking for natural, organic, solution-based beauty and superior CBD, go to evoquebeauty.com. That's evoquebeauty.com and receive 25% off your very first order with the code AWAKEN. Again, that's evoquebeauty.com. Type in the code AWAKEN for 25% off your first order.
Well, hello, Awaken Beauty. Thank you so much for joining the show today. Were you inspired? Please leave a comment or your own personal aha moment so others can capture exactly what you did. Also, please like and subscribe wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you're interested in high quality natural products for your hair, skin, and wellness, including organic CBD, please visit evoquebeauty.com. Again, that is evoquebeauty.com, evoquebeauty.com. And until next time, darling, stay sane, get sleep, and bring your sexy back.